Classical Indian philosophy, Vaisesika School. The concept of Visesha. Visesha or particularity is the fifth category of dravya or substance which is accepted by the Vaisesika School. Visesha, as the name suggests, means exclusivity. It can also be regarded as the basis of discrimination or differentiation. Basically, it is something which differentiates one thing from another. In other words, it helps us to perceive things differently or different from one another. So, Vaisheshika basically means exclusivity, or it can be said that Vishesha is exclusive in nature. It is important to note that whereas generality forms the basis of assimilation, Vaishesha is the complete opposite of it. Vaishesha means the basis of discrimination or differentiation. It is exclusive in nature or it suggests exclusivity. Vaisesika School is a realist school which believes in both quantitative and qualitative plurality. In other words, according to them, one atom differs from another not only quantitatively or numerically but also in terms of qualitative existence. Hence, atoms differ from each other both in terms of quantitative existence and qualitative existence. Therefore, each partless substance, which is ultimate in nature or Parmanu, has an original peculiarity of its own. This peculiarity is its own uniqueness, which is also called Vishesha or particularity. According to Vaisheshika, there are innumerable eternal Visheshas. Though Vishesha, like quality and action, inhere in substance, yet they are regarded as a distinct category. Hence, the Vaisheshikas emphasize on realistic pluralism. According to them, atoms, soul, space and time, and manas or mind are all particulars in nature. The concept of Samavaya. Samavaya or inherence is the sixth category of dravya or substance. Samavaya or inherence is an independent category or padartha which means an inseparable eternal relation. It is important to note that it is different from conjunction or samyoga, which is a separable, transient relation and it is a quality of guna. Samavaya or inherence is an independent category or padartha which means an inseparable eternal relation. Therefore, Samavaya is not transient and it is not separable in nature. Kannada avers, it is the relation between the cause and effect, inseparable in nature. Prasasthapada avers, it is the relationship that exists between things that are inseparable, standing to one another, like the relation of the container and the contained. In other words, the Samavaya can be defined as this is in that. So, the things related by inherence are inseparably connected and this connection is called Ayuta-Siddha. Ayuta-Siddha is the eternal relation that exists between two things. It is called eternal because its production would lead to infinite regress. The relation which is eternal is also imperceptible and it is only inferred that the inseparable relation exists between two things. Some of the examples of Ayuta-Siddha relation are part and whole, quality and the substance, action and the substance, particular and the universal, particularity and the eternal substance. In all these mentioned examples, inherence or samavaya and the relation of Ayuta-Siddha is found. Hence, it is easier to understand once we elaborate them all. This means the whole inheres in the parts, a quality inheres in the substance or dravya, an action or karma inheres in the substance or dravya, the universal inheres in the particular or individual members of the same class. In short, inherence or samavaya is an eternal relation that exists between two things which have inseparable connection between them. This inseparable connection is called Ayuta-Siddha. The concept of Abhava. The seventh category is Abhava or non-existence. Kannada himself does not mention this as the seventh category. It was added later to the six categories. Now it makes it a total of seven categories which are accepted by the Vaisesika school, seventh being Abhava or non-existence. It is important to note that all the other six categories are positive in nature, whereas Abhava is negative in nature. Also, the other six categories are regarded as absolute in nature, whereas the seventh category or Abhava is regarded as relative in its conception. According to Vaiseshika, non-existence or Abhava is of four kinds. They are: number 1, Praga-Abhava. Praga-Abhava is the antecedent non-existence or antecedent negation. It means the non-existence of a thing prior to its production. It is beginningless, but it has an end. It is important to note that in the absence of Praga-Abhava, all things would become beginningless. Number 2, Pradhana-Sambhava. Pradhana-Sambhava is known as subsequent non-existence or negation. It means non-existence of a thing after its destruction. This basically means non-existence or abhava which has a beginning but it has no end. Because it has a beginning and no end, if Pradhana-Sambhava is negated, then all the things would become eternal in nature. Number 3, Anyonyabhava. Anyonyabhava means exclusion, or it is also known as mutual negation. It is opposed to the concept of identity. It is both beginningless and endless in nature. This means this neither has a beginning nor it has an end. It means non-existence of a thing as another thing. For example, S is not P. It is important to note that if Anyonyabhava is negated, all things would become indistinguishable. This basically means that in case there is an absence of Anyonyabhava, or if Anyonyabhava is negated, then we would not be able to distinguish one thing from another. That is, we would not be able to distinguish a jug is different from a glass. Number 4, Atyanta-Abhava. It is also known as absolute non-existence or absolute negation. It is a pseudo-concept. This basically means that it has no reality. For example, son of a barren woman, or a hare's horn, or a sky flower. If Atyanta-Abhava is denied, then all things would exist always and everywhere. Some of the important points pertaining to the different kinds of non-existence are Praga-Abhava, Pradhana-Abhava and Atyanta-Abhava. These three together are called non-existence of correlation or Samsarga-Abhava. These three imply the non-existence of something in something else. For example, S is not in P. On the other hand, Anyonyabhava deals with the non-existence of a thing as another thing. For example, S is not P. The explanation for question 1 is, it means exclusion, or it is also known as mutual negation. It is opposed to identity. It is both beginningless and endless in nature. Explanation to question 2 is, Samavaya or inherence is the sixth category of dravya or substance. It is different from conjunction or samyoga, which is separable, transient relation, and it is a guna or a quality. Samavaya or inherence, on the other hand, is an independent category of padartha, which means an inseparable, eternal relation. Explanation for question 3 is, Vaiseshika, being a realist school, believes in both quantitative and qualitative plurality. In other words, according to them, one atom differs from another not only in terms of numerical existence or quantitative existence but also in terms of qualitative existence.